I am primarily running an anime channel, and some time ago I even made a video talking about how I don't read manga. So naturally, here I am doing a manga video. Then again, this is a bit of a special case. You see, recently I was informed that there exists a manga series called The White Witch, and well, it takes place during both the Winter War and the Continuation War from the viewpoint of the Finnish troops, so naturally I just had to read it, and I figured might as well make this into a video. Hello and welcome, you beautiful people. Before I get going, a brief mention of something that's happening. I'm currently really busy with my bachelor's thesis, so uploads will be a little bit sporadic, and I don't have that much time to focus on editing and scripts. Sorry in advance for the inconvenience. But back on track. This isn't really that much of a manga review as it is having a look at what The White Witch is all about, some mentions of the historical events in relation to the story, and the real people behind the characters. And on that note, a brief history look. During the Second World War, Finland fought 3 separate conflicts, and the manga series follows 2 of them, those being the Winter War of 1939 to 1940 in Part 1 and the Continuation War from 1941 to 44 in Part 2, leaving out the War of Lapland where Finland fought Germany. YouTube wouldn't let me say the N-word in relation to World War II Germany, but I trust you know what that would be. The manga's protagonist is none other than Simo Häyhä, who was indeed a real person and still to this day remains the world's deadliest sniper, and no, alas, Simo was not an anime girl, and the gender swapping is a bit of a theme in this. In all seriousness, if you're looking for a great manga, historically accurate depiction of the 2 wars, or a nitty-gritty serious war story, this isn't it. But at least for me, it was an amusing read, if not a very good one. And it isn't that inaccurate, at least it gets some of the major events and character motivations sort of in the correct ballpark. It's kind of a weird balance where a lot of the time the story is just pure fantasy, and then there are some chapters where they slap you on the face with the history stuff and even get it more or less correct, depicting the motivations behind the decisions of the Finnish High Command and the Finnish relations with Germany at the time, or what we know of Simo's motivations and his stance on the war. So then what is actually going on in the manga? As I already mentioned, the first part covers the Winter War and the Finnish struggle against the far superior Red Army, following Simo's exploits during the war, and emphasizes the effects a sniper can have on the battlefield by doing things like sowing terror amongst the enemy or by eliminating the enemy's leadership. It has the usual sniper versus sniper duel themes and, well, war, even if it does leave out a lot of the general Winter War themes. And hey, they did get it correct in terms of Simo being shot in the face, which did actually happen. He was hit by an explosive bullet which disfigured him for the rest of his life, and in the manga it gives the main character a scar on the face. So I guess that's something. This then leads to Part 2 that takes place during the Continuation War and gets all kinds of wild. Part 2 also throws the historical accuracy out the window in terms of the characters and, well, almost everything else. Simo, for example, never partook in this war due to the aforementioned explosive bullet to the face, as his re-enlistment was denied because of it. Part 2 also partially goes full enemy at the gates, which I weirdly enjoyed. They practically made Simo an Axis version of Vasily Zaitsev, the Soviet master sniper that apparently may or may not have even existed, and the story is taken from Finland all the way to Stalingrad as Simo is fighting on the side of the Germans as a part of a Swedish volunteer unit. I did say it gets kind of wild. This does bring on about one of the issues I took with it. A lot of the events are kind of just glanced over, like the Battle of Stalingrad. It happened, but it isn't really covered, like, at all. It's just mentioned that yeah, this happened. There are also other mentions of important battles, such as the planning for the battles of Tali and Ihantala, which would in reality prove to be the deciding engagements of the Continuation War, as well as the Battle of Viipuri or Vyborg, even if that too gets a little enemy at the gates-esque. So yeah, it's an odd mix of war manga, sniper duels, assassination plots, and then suddenly talks about the geopolitics of the time in Finland, or the psychological side of war all the way from killing, to revenge, to hatred for the enemy, and brainwashing others to advance your own goals, which makes it feel kind of off. It sort of just jumps from one topic to another, changing its themes from one to the next, sometimes within the same page, and it just gets confusing. Honestly, is it a good manga? No, it's really kind of bad, and I don't see why anyone who isn't connected to the history would actually read it, but I found it hilariously insane in a way only manga and anime can be. It's full of loosely historical characters, most of whom have been gender-flipped, which worked oddly well. I weirdly loved seeing Marshal Carl Gustav Emil Mannerheim as a serious old woman, and Lieutenant, later Captain Arne Juutilainen, the Terror of Moscow, as a brass giant scarred woman. Sure, some people have been outraged by this, calling it sacrilege, but for me it was honestly just a fun read. The manga has some real historical events and some pretty grim depictions of war and death, and it does have the overarching war is hell theme, which I think at this point is mandatory for any media taking place during a war, but aside the cliches and terrible pacing, it was just some silly fun. I would recommend you give it a read. It's really short and gives a vague picture of some of the less known conflicts of the Second World War, and, well, most importantly, it's entertaining. So long as you keep in mind that most of it is completely and utterly made up. So then, do let me know in the comments below, have you read The White Witch? If so, why? And what did you think of it? If you haven't, would you give it a go? If you liked this video, like it, dislike if you didn't, subscribe for more anime goodness. Well, this was a manga video, but still. And check the links in the description if you want to engage with me outside of YouTube. With this, I have been Cheese, and I hope to see you next time. Ta-ta for now.